Let's try this one more time. This is take like 12 on this because I have so much information to give and then I have a tickle in my throat. So that changes things a little bit. Anyway, hello everybody. This is Chris from Modern Fantastic. I've just returned from a trip to see my family over Mother's Day weekend and it was a blast. It was awesome. We played some Jackbox. We did some that cool stuff. I just loved it. But on the way, I also studied up on a refresher because I am in need of editing services for my work, and I want to be an editor for other people's work. So I've been doing editing work for like 15 years off and on the side because I know what I'm doing and I've trained for it, like I'm a college grad for this kind of stuff. And I'm not saying you have to be one, but I'm saying I have some credential, at least a little bit. And so I'm jumping into the different kinds of editing because when I stepped into this role as a writer, I only thought of two different types of editors because it's the one we see most and the most prevalent in the fiction genre field and nonfiction, of course, copy editing and proofreading. And we'll get to them at the end. There's a whole slew of different kinds of editors that are part of this whole editing suite, so to speak. So let's start. I'm going to use a forest for the trees metaphor because it kind of helps explain the more and more detailed focus of these different kinds of editors. And I'll start with the most vague and the most obscure, and not obscure, but like literally vague before we even get the forest on the page, for example, as an example, I guess. Before you get the forest on the page, before you start writing anything, or maybe even just writing an outline, there are people that exist called the developmental editors, or also known as conceptual editors, and they do manuscript appraisals. Now, for fiction, that is not something that is particularly prevalent all the time. They're great to have nearby, and I think if you were to go through a big publisher, they would have them for subsequent writings of yours. Like if you get a 3-book deal or a 5-book deal or something like that through Tor, they might have that. But this works most prevalently through the nonfiction genres, the nonfiction writers, the people that are like, hey, I got this idea for writing about introversion, for example, because my partner just published a book on that. And do you think this is a good idea? And the publisher would be like, we're not going to pay you to write that. We don't know you. Or these editors go like, they're not going to pay you to write that. They don't know you. Or I'm going to write a memoir. What are your thoughts? And they're like, who are you? Like, do you have a platform? I got 300 people on Twitter. How many people on Instagram? What's Instagram? I don't think that's necessarily the right thing for you right now. That kind of thing. But they also look at the outline. They look at they look at the far more detailed oriented aspects of writing a cookbook or a memoir. If you're well known enough, celebrity enough that a memoir might have an impact on sales, they would, but they'd go through and be like, okay, how are you arranging your book? How are you collecting your stories? Sorry, I got a hiccup. And for a cookbook, like, are you writing from a German perspective, and why are you the person to write this cookbook? Because I'm German, that's why I use that example. Do you know how to make a good hot dog, kind of thing? And they're called schnitzels. Thank you very much. No, I'm just kidding. I'm totally just winging it. Anyway, they kind of look at all that kind of stuff. Important to talk about developmental when you're doing fiction, nonfiction work. But starting out fiction writers can use this a lot as well. It allows you to, if you're unsure about the market, unsure about what you're doing per se, you could go to these people and say, hey, I need help. Is this a good idea? And they will walk you through structuring. They will walk you through the outlining process. Plotters get a lot of experience out of this. Pantsers might also get a lot of experience out of this. Depends on what kind of pantser you are. So going from a theoretical or metaphorical forest, which are, the best forests in my opinion, you go down to a more concrete forest. Concrete forest sounds like an urban jungle. It's more of an actual forest. This is when your work is finished or rough draft finished. And again, fiction, nonfiction, they both utilize this. I'm going to focus mainly on fiction, though, because that's where my forte is as an unpublished writer of 15 years. So they would look more like at the forest. So they go through like overall quality, the flow, structure. It's a little more in depth. They're called structural editing or manuscript critiquers or manuscript evaluators. And they go in and kind of do the bigger picture, the act 1, 2, and 3, or act 1 through 5, whatever your act lineup is, your structure lineup is. They look at chapter by chapter, like how the overall arc of the story moves, that kind of flow. This is a great person that a lot of people kind of start with, going, hey, is this, how does this look? I think I use beta readers in this kind of format. It helps me the most, and it has a lot of people know what they like and know what they don't like, and that really helps a lot. Not saying that a professional structural editor wouldn't benefit, you wouldn't benefit from that more, but I personally do structural edits, the next one content edits, and then line edits. I do those really well. I get it, and I know good story. I know good storytelling. So they kind of look at the structure, flow, overall quality. Like, overall, how does it feel? How does it look? And if they say, like, if they have a lot of critiques, you might want to go back to a developmental editor. If they don't have a lot of critiques and say, hey, great, this is cool. I like the premise. I like the story. I like everything about it. Greenlit, go for it. That's great. Once you fix those critiques and once you fix those editing requests that they have, then you can move forward into the content editor or the full editor, or the person who does substantive editing. So we went from theoretical forest to physical, like an actual metaphorical. I mean, this might not be the best. I mean, we went from a theoretical forest to a forest. And then from a forest, now we are going to move down to the trees of that forest. And each tree is a paragraph for this whole metaphor. And so the content editor focuses on paragraph by paragraph edits. And these guys do great for basic formatting, coherence, and consistency. My experience, I've had several editors that have been predominantly in the content editing field area. They are looking for consistency. That's the big one that in my experience. They're looking for making sure everything's in first person, make sure you don't accidentally reference yourself as a writer in the book, guilty, as the main character, which I've done before, which is really embarrassing. Whether the scene or chapter fits with the rest is another big one. And these guys are kind of the kind of people that are like, hey, Sally had blonde hair last, chapter 5, and then chapter 30, Sally has brown hair, or gray eyes or something. Those are kind of like what these guys are looking for, and kind of making sure like just everything fits. Make sure the more detailed structure is there, and there's no bobbing around and from first person to third person limited to third person omniscient to second person. I've edited works that go from first to third to second, and it's a very difficult read for anybody. And that's something they would recommend maybe getting rid of, moving on. Like if it fits, if it pops, if it works, great. But sometimes it doesn't. Now we go to the bark of the tree, if you will, to the line editors, the stylistic editors, and the comprehensive editors. Like, this is where you get the comprehensive edits in for your work. This is, instead of paragraph by paragraph, this goes line by line. These are the people that are looking for passive word use. They're looking for too many exclamation points. They're looking for the repetition of individual words. And the word, like remove the word that from your writing, comes from line editing practices. And it's something that these guys here make your prose sing. These guys make things pop, and they search for that perfect word along the way that will enhance your writing and make things more clear. They cut a lot. And line editor sometimes slide into the role of copy editor, but don't for a second expect a line editor to be a copy editor as well, unless they say they will. It's a big shift as well. So finally, we are now getting to the pruning of the branches of the tree metaphor in this forest that is your story. The copy editors. And these guys are in high demand because if you're really good at what you do, like know your ish, know it really well, you can possibly skip the other 4 editors and just jump into the copy editing stage. But anybody who thinks they can skip copy editing and proofreading, in my opinion, don't know what they're doing. And that's a pretty bold statement there, Cotton. I know. Let's see how it turns out. I don't think you can be a professional writer and not have a copy editor look at your work, and a proofreader, in my opinion, both. And the reason why I say that is, average Joe writer, myself, with all of their life of experiences, step in, privileged experiences, I may add. I had a good education. I went to college. I have a degree in writing. Crippling amount of debt. But I have that privilege. Even me, I can catch about 60% of my errors because I have bad habits. Everyone picks up bad habits. Everyone writes something, writes a different form of, like, the word gray, for example. I mean, that's really basic, but so these copy editors catch, fix spelling, punctuation, and grammar. That is what they do. And from a nonfiction side, these guys know MLA format. They know Chicago Manual style. These guys are the gurus when it comes to grammar. These are the, as they say, grammar police. And you want them to be grammar police. And the more policey they are in their grammar, the better. So the best copy editors you can find, in theory, will catch 85% of grammar issues, spelling, and punctuation. So if I catch 65%, they catch 85%. There's still a chance that you got other issues that neither of you catch. The more eyes on your work, the better, in my opinion. And that then moves into the proofreaders. The difference between copy editors and proofreaders is in the name. Copy editors look at a polished manuscript. Proofreaders read the proof of the manuscript. And by proof, I mean a bound, formatted book in hand that they go through and look for formatting issues. They look for grammatical sentence structure issues. They look for cutoffs at the end of chapters that might be happening, or printing errors, or numbering, like page numbering errors. They look for all the stuff that the formatters missed or the format shift had created, along with whatever the copy editors might have missed. Because again, there's that small percentage of, even with the most perfect copy editor you can find, there's that small percentage of grammatical errors that can get through, and periods missed, and commas in the wrong place, and whatever. Both of them are needed, because the more eyes in your book, the better, in my opinion. Now, it is incredibly important not to start at copy editing. Because if you go through the copy editing process and you spend $500 on this guy to go through your 80,000 word novel, and this person does what they need to do, and they clean it all up, and it's all cleaned up, and then you go, okay, now I'm going to go back to let's do a full edit. Let's find a full editor, because now it looks good. Well, that full editor goes through and goes, well, this idea is wrong. Sally's hair is purple now. All that kind of stuff. Why is chapter 17 in third person when everything else is first person? I don't think it should do that. Then all of a sudden you're doing substantial rewrites, and all that editing work is down the drain, basically, because you're writing new words, new sentences, the same bad habits you had before. Sorry, we all have them. And then you're looking at going back through and having a copy editor do it again. That is where where I've been stuck as a writer. I have had the content editing, I've had the full edit, I've had the stylistic edit even. I have not gone to the copy editing because I don't have the money set aside. I'm busy working on paying off bills, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, It's needed. So start with the higher level editing and move down to copy editing. Do not start at the most detailed and then move backward, because it's going to cost you so much money. And time also. Time is forever against you when it comes to being a writer. Anyway, if you are looking for an editor that is not a copy editor, because I'm not quite confident in my skills yet in that, even though, like I said, I have MLA handbook, I have Chicago manual style, and that I have studied extensively. I still have a lot of bad habits. And again, working retail, working all these other jobs that don't focus on keeping my skill up means that I have a lot of bad habits I picked up along the way. But if you're looking for a structural editor or a content editor or a line editor, send me a note, send me an email, let me know. I'd be happy to work with that with you. Wow. See, that's why I need an editor. And it's kind of part of why I'm doing all this, I want to get my name out. I want to be that guy. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. Please send me a note, follow, do all that thing, and let me know how you feel about all this. If I missed something, drop a line. Let me know so I can update it. I'm always learning. That's the point of this whole shindig. I am an unpublished writer, unpublished professional writer. This is a journey that I'm trying to walk through and share with as many people as possible. I'm in the trenches. I'm in the dredges. Educate me. I'm ready. All right, guys. Like what you see? Please follow, comment, do your thing. And as always, keep writing, my friends.